Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Um, so many of you know that I like to spend a lot of time in coffee shops here locally. I like to get out of the office when I need to really concentrate on things, whether that's writing a sermon or preparing for confirmation class, or sometimes I just don't want people to bug me on the phone. So I go somewhere and I hide out, and it's usually a coffee shop. For the longest time, it was Caribou Coffee, and then I switched to Dunn Brothers, kind of on the north side of Rochester, Dunn Brothers North. There, it's kind of close by my house. Then for a while, I was going to the coffee shop in Forager when it was Fiddlehead, but then it stopped being Fiddlehead, and I stopped going. And then I went to Fiddlehead by the government center, and then I started going to Cafe Steam, first the one downtown, and then every once in a while I go to the one in Discovery Square. But now, more often than not, I go to the Cafe Steam that's in Thesis Brewery here on 2nd Street. Now, I said all that just so you know I actually go to coffee shops. And I go frequently. I know where they're all about town, right? So I really like this coffee shop at Thesis because they don't serve you coffee in paper cups with lids on top. They serve it in an actual mug, and I really enjoy it. And if you order a big coffee, it comes in a big mug, like it's almost a bowl that you can eat a bowl of cereal out of, and it's always really good. But every once in a while I'm walking carrying this big cup of coffee in Thesis to go sit and do what I need to do, someone will bump into me and I'll spill some of the coffee. Now, it might go in my hand, it might go on my floor. Sometimes they give me a saucer, so it goes in the saucer. And when that happens, if I'm honest, the first things that pop in my head aren't very God-honoring, right? Can you relate to that, where something happens to you and it's not really anyone's fault, it's just an accident, and then all of a sudden what pops into your head is, man, that person is a jerk. Or, man, that person just needs to pay attention. I've even had those thoughts when I've been the person who's run into someone else, right? Like, obviously, it's not my fault because I'm perfect. And I was thinking about this cup of coffee and the way that I react to it in terms of how I live my life. And I imagine that my life is that cup of coffee quite often. And that in life, sometimes something happens and people hit me or bump me or whatever, they discombobulate me. And at times in my life, when I'm not feeling very close to God, the things that come out can be resentment or anger or judgment or negative thoughts. And I really strive to live a life in the way of gratitude. And I know that I'm not practicing that practice of gratitude when those kind of negative thoughts are the ones that spill out of me. Because really, ultimately, it's not a big deal if someone bumps up into me or makes a mistake. Sometimes I make it much bigger than it needs to be. And I wonder how it would change if my first thoughts weren't thoughts of judgment or negativity towards someone else, but judgments of gratitude that I actually have that person in my life. Or gratitude that that person is living life in a way that serves God. Or gratitude for all the blessings that I have, and really that this minor inconvenience isn't really all that big of a deal. And I think I've been thinking about this kind of in conjunction with the reading tonight from the gospel. The story of Jesus and his disciples and food and people hungering for kind of earthly food. And wondering what that earthly food is. When Jesus says, well, I have everlasting food. I have this food of grace, mercy, love, and forgiveness that I'm just going to give to you. And that's going to be a part of who you are. And that's going to be a part of your core being. And no matter what, no matter if someone does you feeling bad about yourself or whatever, this gift is never going away. It's like the ultimate piece of chocolate cake, right? Where you keep taking huge bites, and magically the piece of cake is always still that one huge piece of cake that looks perfect. So you can just keep eating it and eating it and eating it. Are you hungry for chocolate cake yet? Right? So, when I talk about living gratitude in a way of life, I think that's really living the life of a Christian, right? Recognizing and being grateful for the things not of this world, but the things that move us beyond this world and help us to focus on an existence that God wants to have for us. An existence filled with love, grace, mercy, all those good things that we think about God. I think the best parts of that stuffing your Thanksgiving turkey, right? So, because I've been thinking a lot about this, I've been trying to look at examples of people who have a kind of embodied gratitude, not only in my life, but kind of famous people. And I've been really stuck on Mr. Rogers lately. I think it's because I'm a fan of Tom Hanks and I'm really anxious to go see the Mr. Rogers movie. But also the background of Mr. Rogers, where he's this Methodist preacher who wanted to kind of have an impact on kids and teach kids about self-worth and self-value and let them know that even though the world might tell them that they need to be something that they're not, that them being who they are is good enough. That I've just kind of done a deep dive. And I found myself just yesterday afternoon in my office watching a clip of Mr. Rogers when he received, I think it was in 1997, a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Emmys. And they brought Mr. Rogers, this unassuming guy, up onto the stage, and the crowd was filled with, the Hollywood elite, and they all stood and gave him a round of applause. And Tim Robbins, the actor, was the one who kind of introduced him and said what a profound impact that Mr. Rogers had on his life. And Mr. Rogers, being who Mr. Rogers is, kind of ultimately turned the attention away from himself. And he said, I'm just really grateful for the people in my life who allowed me to do the things that I've wanted to do and live the life that I've wanted to live and the influence they've had on me. And he asked the entire crowd of these Hollywood superstars to take 10 seconds, just 10 seconds, to sit in silence and to think about the people who they are grateful for. And he encouraged them to close his eyes, and he assured them that he would keep time. And his very Mr. Rogers kind of way. Right? Because everything with this man slowed down. So he started the clock, and the whole theater was filled with silence. The only people kind of moving about were cameramen. And as the cameramen went from one famous person to another famous person to another famous person, you could see their faces being transformed. You could see their eyes start to leak a little bit, just because they were being intentional about giving thanks for the people in their life who had such a profound impact on them. So, more than any words that I have to say tonight, I think just practicing that together as a community of faith would be the absolute best way to honor Thanksgiving. So, this is the interactive part. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes for 10, we're going to push it a little bit because we're churchy people, 15 seconds. And I want you to think about the people in your life that you're grateful for. They could be people who are currently in your life, people who have gone before you, people who you read about. I just want you to think about those people and lift up a prayer of gratitude for them. So feel free, close your eyes. I'll watch the time. Ready? Go. just want to say thank you for the people, on behalf of the people that you just thought about. And this is what Mr. Rogers said, so I'm going to say it. Because they are probably grateful that you're even remembering them. So, brothers and sisters in Christ, let us live a life of gratitude. Let's adopt gratitude as our way of life. Let us not be quick to judge or to nitpick or to complain. Rather, let us be people who are quick to say thank you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for revealing God to me. Thank you for loving me. And let us be people who always recognize that this ability to be grateful is based on the gift of love that God has given to every single one of us. Because if we sit and think about it for 10, 15 seconds with our eyes closed, we have a whole heck of a lot to be grateful for. And for that, I am grateful. So thanks be to God.